You know how some places just become a part of you? Like they're written right into your DNA? Well, today we're jumping into this really beautiful personal essay about what it means to belong to a place, not just for a lifetime, but for generations, and what happens when that place you love starts to change. It all kicks off with this incredible thought.
Wow, what a line, right? The author opens with this, and it just sets the perfect tone. We're not just talking about a dot on a map here. We're talking about a landscape that actually becomes part of your inner world.
And this connection we're talking about, it isn't just a fleeting thing. For the author, their family's roots in Montana's Bitterroot Valley run so incredibly deep, and that creates this really powerful sense of history and, who they are.
6. Just let that number sink in for a second. We're talking about 6 generations of the same family, looking up at the same mountains, walking on the same patch of earth. That is a connection that goes way back, through all the good times, the tough times, and some massive cultural shifts.
I love how the author frames this. This history isn't some heavy chain holding them back. It's more like a foundation. It's this constant, grounding presence that reminds them where they come from. What a beautiful way to think about your relationship with the past.
But here's the thing. Being grounded doesn't mean you're stuck in place. In fact, probably the biggest lesson passed down through all those generations was the complete opposite, that change is absolutely inevitable.
And to really get this, you have to hear the story of the Great Apple Boom. So, turn of the 20th century, promoters were selling this valley as an absolute paradise for apple orchards. They built these huge irrigation systems, and for a little while, it was actually the apple capital of the world. But then, well, reality hit. Hard. In the form of frost and changing markets. This whole boom and bust thing wasn't just some economic event. It taught the people of the Bitterroot a core lesson, one that really got baked into the valley's DNA.
There it is. The ancestors who managed to stick it out after the bust, they learned that the most valuable thing you could have was adaptability. If you wanted to make a life here, you had to be ready to roll with the punches, because change was pretty much the only thing you could count on. So this lesson about being adaptable really shaped the world the author grew up in. Back in the 70s and 80s, the community there was woven together in this very, very specific way. And the absolute heart of this whole community, it was a place called Medicine Hot Springs. The author calls it a loud, humid, wonderful chaos. It wasn't some fancy spa. It was the social cathedral of the valley, the one place where absolutely everybody's lives crossed paths.
At the hot springs, and really just everywhere in the valley, those sharp lines we draw today between us and them just kind of melted away. Community wasn't just some nice idea. It was the everyday reality of sharing your life, your struggles, and your responsibilities with everyone around you.
And it all comes down to this one key word, interdependence. Back then, your reputation, who you were, how you treated people, if you showed up when needed, that was your currency. That was everything. You didn't just live near people, you truly lived with them. You were all in it together.
So what did that actually look like day to day? Well, it meant that if your neighbor's irrigation ditch blew out at 2 in the morning, you just showed up with a shovel, no questions asked. It meant you fixed their hay baler on a handshake and a promise to pay you back when they could. And it meant that stopping for a 20-minute chat at the post office wasn't a waste of time, it was the whole point.
But remember that one crop that never fails? Change. Well, it's harvest time again. The valley is transforming, and this time it's bringing in a whole new set of values that creates the central tension of this whole story.
So people are still moving to the Bitterroot, and for a lot of the same reasons they always have been, for the beauty, the open space, for a little bit of peace. And the author makes this really clear. This is not a story about good guys and bad guys.
But here's the rub. There's been a massive shift in the why. The old ideal was all about interdependence, about getting into the mess and magic of community life. The new ideal? It's often about independence, about getting away from it all. And that right there, that's the core conflict.
And this chase for privacy, as understandable as it is, can have this unintended side effect. In trying to find that perfect solitude, new folks sometimes end up building a wall, fencing themselves off from the exact thing that made the valley so special in the first place, that deep human connection. So where does that leave us? Are we just stuck in this conflict? Nope. The author moves us towards something so much more hopeful, a way to maybe, just maybe, bridge this divide.
And here's where the perspective really zooms out. The problem isn't really the people, it's not old-timers versus newcomers. The real challenge is the frantic pace of our modern world. A world that rewards speed and individualism over the slow, patient, sometimes messy work of building a real community. This is such a smart, crucial point. It's not about being nostalgic for some good old days. The past wasn't better because people were somehow morally superior. It was better because the tough realities of life back then forced them to rely on each other. Their circumstances demanded patience and interdependence.
And that brings us to the big question, not just for the Bitterroot, but really for all of our communities. Can we choose connection over isolation? Can we actively decide to have open hands instead of closed gates and find a way to blend the best of the old ways with our new reality?
And so we end right back where we started, at the hot springs. The water becomes this perfect final metaphor. It's a shared resource, it's warm, and it doesn't care who you are or how long you've been here. It just asks one thing, that you're willing to step in and share that warmth. And that leaves us with this really beautiful and hopeful idea of what a community can still be.